We are here today with Chen, and he has a live virtual event company and also hybrid. And he's kind of pulled together some cool little packages to produce hybrid events. So, John, why don't you give us kind of an overview about what you do and kind of the infrastructure and types of shows that you do. So go ahead and take it away.
Thanks. Hey, I'm Chen. I'm the author of a book called Engaging Virtual Meetings. It hit the #1 Amazon hot new release in 2020, but this is my 28th year of being in business for myself. And I used to do team building, and COVID kind of changed all that. But we had been experimenting in virtual team building for over 38 years, but nobody would buy it until March of 2020. And now suddenly everybody is interested. So during that time, over the last 4 years, I built a big studio in my home at Shoreline, Washington. And I have now gone into hybrid and sometimes in-person production. And the whole key to my production is making it engaging.
Great. That's awesome. And I know you were telling me a little bit about kind of the hardware package that you have. So you want to go more into a little bit of detail about that?
Yeah. And again, for instance, my home setup is atypical because I have 14 screens available to me. I use 2 Stream Decks, right? And so I use OBS or Open Broadcast software. And so I'm doing a lot of things that other people aren't doing. And I think that's one of the ways to make a distinction for yourself, make yourself unique. Now, when hybrid came out, I really felt like the problem was it took me over 8 hours to prepare and then set up for a hybrid. And I said, that's too long. And 80% of the time is plugging in all the cables again. So I found a box that has the front and back and turns into tables. I put in all the equipment, and now 80 to 90% of the cables stay plugged in. So now I can roll into a place, open this box, and in 30 minutes, I can start streaming live. So
That's awesome. I can definitely see that fit in the market. So tell us about some different events and productions that you've done in the past.
yeah, I'm really excited because I've made a lot of inroads with the Black community here in Seattle. So I want to give a shout out to Black-owned business excellence. They hold a symposium every February to celebrate Black History Month. And they've been running hybrid for the last 3 years and virtual before it. That's how I met them, is that I was producing their virtual conference. And then when they went hybrid, they stayed with me. And now we were able to produce their hybrid in a really high grade fashion. And so you can have 8 hours of content, which is a lot for virtual, and still have people on there because it's so engaging, multiple camera views, clear audio, and most of all, content that they care about.
That's awesome. And then I want to dive a little bit into what you're talking about with your book.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear some of the key takeaways that you talk about in your book. And I know we can't summarize all of it like in a
Sure.
short time, but what are some of the big key takeaways that you've seen really resonate with clients and customers, and some of the best practices that you're doing around your events that are really actually impactful?
So the #1 challenge they said was engagement. So in virtual, it was like engagement or people turning cameras on or replying. But as we went back to in person, the meeting professionals are saying engagement, right? So the problem hasn't changed. And so that's what we're really looking at. So the first principle is if you want engagement, engage. Have a plan to engage every single person in the audience before the end of the meeting. And that can be like on virtual, that can be like chat. You can talk to people one at a time. But in person now, you can use some of these tools. So we did it just earlier this morning. We used a tool called Stream Alive. The people on virtual just chat, and the people in person scan a QR code, and then they get a chat on their phone. And now we can engage every single person in the audience without having the time to take to talk to them individually. So that's really key. Principle #1 is engage and interact with every attendee. And #2, I think that's the most important that applies right here. The N in engage stands for never lead a meeting alone. And so we have such big teams, right? Meeting professionals use all sorts of different people, speakers, audiovisual, the hotel, all these different things to engage people. And so, and virtual should be, no different. Make sure that there are other people that are there who are experts in what they do, and you'll find that you'll gain more value. And for you, if you're the speaker, like I do speak on occasions, is that I can stay focused on the audience if I have a great team, right? So that's why we say never lead a meeting alone. If you're on Zoom, for instance, we say never Zoom alone.
That's awesome. And that, again, that's cool. It's because we've definitely seen a lot of cool tools like that. And that is kind of a newer one that we are seeing more. The pandemic kind of created more of that ability that for people to virtually interact, but then that bridge to the physical world in person event had kind of been the missing link. So I have, like you said, start seeing more and more tools come out for that usability. And so even on that note, I'm curious kind of what you've seen or what you even think is going to be happening around innovation in the future within this space with live interactive events, hybrid, virtual events. What do you see coming down the pipeline that are some really cool things that are getting you excited?
So the funny part, Colin, is that I was at Microsoft, and one of the core principles is what we call lowering the bar. So I once saw Bill Gates a long time ago talk about object-oriented basic. And we kind of laughed as programming students going, what is this going to really mean? But what happened when he finally finished it, he was able to quadruple the number of programmers for Windows apps by making, right, object-oriented basic, Windows Basic on there. So I think these tools are like this. So this is why I selected Stream Alive as one of my top tools, because on virtual, they don't have to learn anything new. What happens is Stream Alive puts a bot inside of there and reads the chats and then can visualize them. So, something common that we do, Colin, is like, hey, where are you calling in from?
Yeah.
And so when they start chatting city names, it shows up on pins on a map without doing anything. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I think there's a whole host of tools that are going to come in here, and they're going to do two things. They're going to either open up new capability, or they're going to make it easier for people to interact and engage with each other. So other things that I've seen, there is an app coming around where everybody in the room can actually turn on their mic and their camera without echo. And so this program is actually canceling out the echo so that every laptop in the room could become a mic. So now we don't have to have the problem of rigging up, 30 mics to a board.
Yeah. Yeah. And feed them into one input source so that
Right.
basically it gets
So
the
it doesn't.
plus minus right. Yeah.
So yeah, so those are the type of things that I'm looking for. And I think there are a few more things in the future that are engagement tools, really.
That's awesome. Yeah. Even with AI, that's kind of something that we've seen is now with the ability to use generative AI to create images, video, or even soon to come 3D environments is already being worked on. We're even looking forward to an Unreal Engine driven background in front of a green screen at our studio.
Yes.
And then that way we can do this virtual production where it could be like Boeing having a meeting and then they're actually on the tarmac of the airstrip. And then because it's not real jets moving around and taking off and flying, we control the sound. And so we can give like a town hall meeting that basically is immersed in that sort of an environment from a visual speaking point. And then like you said, having all the monitors and the TVs and the downstage monitors so we can get the chat, the interactivity, feed those into the studio so that they can engage with the people as well. So there's some really cool stuff that, like, I'm not necessarily scared of AI. I actually really think that it's going to bring
Yes.
some of the high cost productions
Yes.
down
Yes.
to the mid-level clients that can now have access to this really cool technology that only the top Hollywood productions could have access to.
And that's kind of where I feel like I fit in, right? I'm not this $100,000 AV production place. I'm, able to slide into this category where people didn't have anybody before. And
Yeah.
I think that in the production side, that we really need to use these tools. And I do envision a world like that where we use our existing tools to create meetings where people can be anywhere, right? And that we can envision these things. And so that using this production, you can produce meetings that you would have almost no chance of producing in the real world unless you got a bunch of jets and a lot of expensive stuff around. So that's what I really look forward to, is like this type of production. Oh, so that's what I was going to say. My strategy for this year is called Tech and Tech. And one side, I am attempting to use the highest grade technology to create, virtual and visual scenes. But I'm also using all this old school tech of engagement technology, things that I do with the attendees that require no tech. And what I've seen is that the combination of these two items is what equals engagement to the audiences that I work with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I can even see with your portable systems, one thing that we do is we'll fly around with a 2-person crew, bring the smallest amount of gear that we can to broadcast out. And then now we're starting to see with our studio that we could work with organizations like yours that have more of the kits like that, send like different partners out like that to these remote locations, and then even set up feeds where we could mix there as a sub mix back, or
Right.
we've even done it before where each individual camera will just be sent back to minimize the flight case, and we'll send it back to our studio and mix it there. We did a show in Pune, India, where we had 3 cameras sent back to us to the studio, mix it there, and then
Right.
rebroadcast it out. So
I've
like
heard
you're
that.
saying,
Yeah.
it's starting to really bring down the overall like equipment and infrastructure that you need. And again, we'll just adopt some of that, work with partners like yourself to make it so that it becomes more accessible to clients that maybe don't have as large of a budget.
Yeah, high production value. It looks high production, right? With a medium to lower cost, and using all these technologies. So remote, right? The ability to control the cameras remote or get the feeds now over the internet. Some of these things weren't possible 10 or 20 years ago. The internet was not fast enough to do some of these things. And now, if you have the right, connections, I think you could do them. And that's what I also like, right? When technology is also bringing this bar down, meaning that we can do great things for medium, lower cost. And then if they do have a bigger budget, now we can do bigger and better things.
Yeah, I agree. Well, one last thing is, how do people get a hold of you?
Oh, thank you. So I have the website, Engaging Virtual Meetings, all one word, .com, engagingvirtualmeetings.com. You can reach me there. And you can even schedule a meeting with me. So if you had a program that you wanted to talk about, you can. We have a number of free programs that are through the year. And I'm excited actually to announce we're having the Engaging Conference on October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And it's going to be our first time going hybrid. We're going to be broadcasting live out of Seattle and then a virtual audience. And so that's a great place. If you are looking for how to make your conference summit or masterclass engaging, please check it out at engagingvirtualmeetings.com. Thanks, Colin.
Cool. Thank you so much. It's been an honor talking shop with you.
Cheers. We'll see you online.
Yep. See you guys later.